Henry Cejudo has pled his case even stronger, the case for why he should be given the opportunity to compete against Volkanovski. Now, if you were ever asked a question, and same as me, but the question went something along the lines of, what do you think is going to happen in X situation? Even though the question is personalizing it with the word you, your mind will automatically make the leap to, what do you think Dana's going to think? And I think you're correct to do that. And if we are going to look at it from that perspective, we do have to satisfy a few things that Dana's going to look at. Dana is not looking to bring somebody in on a one-off. He does not do one-offs. He has never done a one-off. That would be absolutely no interest to him anywhere within the organization, let alone in a coveted world title fight. I believe that somewhere in Dana's mind, he is not yet convinced. I'm guessing he's not yet convinced that Henry would like to make a return to the sport. Henry has been very clear to say, I'm coming back, I'm coming at 145, and I'm coming for Volkanovski. That's great. That's good messaging by Henry. With any great statement, with any level of good messaging, you always run into a hiccup accidentally, which is, Henry, if I can't give you everything that you just said that you wanted, which was a specific opportunity against a specific weight class against a specific opponent, does it mean that you're not interested? Are you willing to be a contender? We'll discuss whether or not I'm going to make you one. I'm asking, are you willing to be one? If you become the champion, are you willing to defend the championship? If you lose in this match, are you riding off in the sunset and saying, well, that didn't work? Are you coming back and you're going to do some other matches against other meaningful guys? I mean, all of these things are factors that anybody would have to equate into a decision as big as this. Because it's a very unique situation, right? It's very unique. Volkanovski is going to fight, but he's not going to fight the number one contender. You're quickly going to say, why would he not fight the number one contender? Well, in this case, he can't, because Max, who's earned that opportunity to wear the crown of the number one contender, is hurt. He's sidelined. So we know Volk isn't going to fight the right guy, so now he's going to fight another guy. The rules are a little bit different for what another guy is. You don't just default down to the guy next in the rankings. That's not how it works. The system and the integrity of the system says the champion fights the number one contender. Now, the politics of what gets behind identifying yourself as the number one contender, that's a conversation for another day. But once that's been eliminated, the other guy starts to be a little bit of a gray area. It starts to be, hey, who do the fans want to see the most? If we're already acknowledging the rightful guy's not going in there, what in the hell difference does it make? I mean, in all fairness to the integrity of the sport, at least. So now you do start to have a little bit of fun. I don't know where Henry's head is at. I spoke to Henry 3 days ago. I asked him this question. He answered it, but I didn't fully understand his question. It seemed as though he's pretty locked on Volkanovski. But I have no evidence from private conversations with Henry or any public interviews that he's done that he's only looking to compete one more time. I do not have that opinion. He's in the room training every single day, twice a day. He's a young guy. He's cloaked in success. He's got something he wants to do. He's got his direction. All he sees in his life is gold. That's just the way his mind works. I'm not actually convinced that he's not willing to earn the gold or defend the gold, but I can't speak definitively on that, and I think that it's one thing that Henry needs to sew up. When Henry came out recently, and recently I mean this morning, and was pleading his case, he did it on social media, he did it directly to Dana White. He said, I would never pull out of this fight. Now, very relevant that he said that. He said, I would never pull out of this fight. That makes me believe that some narrative was created somewhere that I didn't hear, that the concern with Henry is that he's going to sign it, he's going to have the push behind him, he's going to have the PR, he's going to have the messaging, and then he's not going to show up. So Henry was trying to solve that problem. I don't know if that ever came up. I think it must have. For him to think that he needed to address it must mean that somebody else had started that somewhere. And I do think that Henry's in a very good position to get this match. I'm not predicting it for you. I'm telling you, I think he's in a very good position. That position changes if I'm wrong about my guess that the date that Volkanovski agreed to fight, which happened to be Max Holloway, is the one thing we're going to keep intact. If we're not laser focused and committed on the idea of keeping that date intact and we're going to move it, when they have a whole nother conversation. I mean, you could start bringing in the winner of Giga versus Cater. It's all of a sudden not just down to the Zombie. If we're going to move that date and other guys are going to have a chance to come to this party, I mean, Giga couldn't even speak up on this because he's got his hands full. Cater couldn't speak up on this because he's got his hands full. That isn't the situation if we're going to move that day. See how we have very limited information? And I also think that it's very good for Henry that Zombie agreed to this. Volkanovski accepted Zombie's challenge. The audience was cool with it, but it did not get announced. That just means, and it only tells us one thing, that decision is not yet made, which is where a guy like Henry still does have time to insert himself. And I think that one thing that Henry does need to make crystal clear is his commitment to the return to the sport, not just to the opportunity, which is for himself. Not just to champ status, which is selfish and for himself. I think he needs to do a little bit better job because I need it. I'm a Henry supporter. I'm a Henry friend. But I still need it. As a fan, to be a Henry fan, I need to know that he wants to compete. When I watched him win the Olympics, he didn't just walk into a gold medal match. He had to go through the best guys in the world, including the defending Olympian who happened to have a silver medal, just to get out of the country, just to get the singlet on and the opportunity to enter the tournament. Then he had to go through 4 studs before he got to the gold medal match. I mean, I know that this is within Henry. I need to know if it's still there. Is he still the guy that we can count on? We're going to go put $10 million push behind this guy to get this fight with Volkanovski and Henry. We need to know the ROI doesn't come that night. No advertising comes that day. It's an investment. It's a long-term play. So you dump the money behind him to build the Volk fight. You shine him up. Win or lose, you now have 2 stars. You can do something else with them. You start to justify some of those expenses, but it's very important if you're the decision maker that you know, is that what I'm dealing with, or is this a one-time thing? I think that's the one part that Henry needs to make a little bit clearer. And I do think that things are starting to get a little bit better for Henry. That was laughable or was a headline last week is now something that's close to being considered. Once it makes it into the category of being considered, you're in a good spot. You're in a very small spot. It looks like to us, the audience, that it's between Zombie and Henry. And I think Henry was way down, but the mere fact that the Zombie fight did not get announced shows that there's some level of opportunity. And this all has to do if we're keeping intact the agreed upon date. If we're moving that, all bets are off and we can revisit this another time. I want to know, is Cejudo only interested in a world title fight, or is Cejudo interested in coming back and competing in the sport of mixed martial arts?